Hi guys,
Hi.
it's Phoebe and Abigail here, and we are welcoming you to Solid Ground virtually. As you may have noticed, we are doing things a little differently, so we wanted to let you know what it's going to be like. This is our last Solid Ground for the semester, and tonight Drew is going to be talking to us about the city. So this whole semester we've been going over the bookends of the Bible, and tonight it's going to be building up to the city that we see at the end, which is in Revelation.
So, like Phoebe mentioned, the format tonight will be a little different from our standard on-campus meetings. You might be getting a little bit used to the YouTube version. So we're going to start out today with some singing still. There will be some songs with the lyrics on the video, and you can sing along at home. Grab your family, bring them in to sing with you, FaceTime a friend in, or share the video with them as well. After the singing, Drew's going to be sharing the message, and you'll be able to interact with him in the comments on the side of the live YouTube video as well. So if you have questions that you want to bring up, you can actually go ahead and interact with him there. We'll also be posting to you there during the video. At the end of the video, we're going to be posting a link to a Zoom room where we'll be having our discussion afterwards. So make sure you jump in there. You can share what you enjoyed, you can ask any questions, and so on like that. Also, like Phoebe mentioned, this is the last solid ground of the semester, which is bittersweet always, right? But next week, we'll be having a virtual celebration dinner. So for those of you who have been here in the past, at the end of every semester, we have a celebration dinner. We get together, we eat a meal, and then everyone shares something that the Lord has done in them this semester. So this semester, we'll be doing that virtually via Zoom. So be prayerfully considering this week what you feel like the Lord has done in you, or challenged you, or something that you've just really learned or enjoyed from the Lord this semester, so that you can share that with everyone else.
Also, in addition to what the Lord has been doing in your life and showing you this semester, we'd also like if you would consider what are just some memories you have had with CSF this semester. Feel free to come and bring a story or pictures. We miss all of you in person, so it would be nice to reminisce together and see, just the community that we've had this semester. Also, like was mentioned, we have announcements at the end, and so please stay tuned. We have some activities coming up this weekend and into next week so that we can still stay connected. Thank you.
Enjoy.
Given freedom to all who just believe in me, no longer enslaved. Come now, return to Jesus, receive the life that frees us, call on Him and be saved. This is the year of Jubilee, proclaim our liberty in it. Throughout the land we sound out, the slaves have been returned to Him, released from toil, anxiety, and sin. This is the year of Jubilee. Reclaim the land, our portion, God as our rich possession, feast on Him every day. Enjoy Him with God's family, find satisfaction and peace here, forever to stay. This is the year of Jubilee, proclaim our liberty in it. Throughout the land we sound out, the slaves have been returned to Him, released from toil, anxiety, and sin. This is the year of Jubilee. The Lord has given Jubilee to all who just believe. Jubilee, no longer enslaved. Come now, return to Jesus, receive the life that frees us, call on Him and be saved. This is the year of Jubilee, proclaim our liberty in it. Throughout the land we sound out, the slaves have been returned to Him, released from toil, anxiety, and sin. This is the year of Jubilee. Reclaim the land, our portion. God as our rich possession. Feast on Him every day. Enjoy Him with God's family. Find satisfaction and peace here forever to stay. This is the year of Jubilee. Proclaim our liberty in Him. Throughout the land we sound out the slaves have been returned to Him. Released from toil, anxiety, and sin. This is the year of Jubilee. This is the year of Jubilee. This is the year of Jubilee.
Jacob saw the vision in a dream in Bethel. Moses saw the vision on a mountain to tell. David saw the vision of the holy temple. Ezekiel saw the vision of the house. Then John saw the vision of the new Jerusalem. Well, it's God dispensed and God built into man. We need a vision, so we open to the Lord, seeking revelation in the holy word, turning to the Spirit for the building of the church. The church is the fullness of the one. Zechariah's vision was for God's recovery. Daniel had a vision of Christ in victory. Paul and Peter's vision of the building of the body, complete the revelation of the age. Then John saw the vision of the new Jerusalem. Well, it's God dispensed and God built into man. We need a vision, so we open to the Lord, seeking revelation in the holy word, turning to the Spirit for the building of the church. The church is the fullness of the one. Jacob saw the vision in a dream in Bethel. Moses saw the vision on a mountain to tell. David saw the vision of the holy temple. Ezekiel saw the vision of the house. Then John saw the vision of the new Jerusalem. Well, it's God dispensed and God built into man. We need a vision, so we open to the Lord, seeking revelation in the holy word, turning to the Spirit for the building of the church. The church is the fullness of the one. Zechariah's vision was for God's recovery. Daniel had a vision of Christ in victory. Paul and Peter's vision of the building of the body, complete the revelation of the age. Then John saw the vision of the new Jerusalem. Well, it's God dispensed and God built into man. We need a vision, so we open to the Lord, seeking revelation in the holy word, turning to the Spirit for the building of the church. The church is the fullness of the one. Then John saw the vision of the new Jerusalem. Well, it's God dispensed and God built into man. We need a vision, so we open to the Lord, seeking revelation in the holy word, turning to the Spirit for the building of the church. The church is the fullness of the one. Ephesians 1:23.
Hey guys, welcome to the last solid ground of the semester. So we have officially taken you guys on a pretty grand tour of the Bible. I hope you've seen a whole lot of things. So here in the last week in this nice little corner of my office instead of over in the student center, we're going to look at one last item before you guys are ready next week to give the topic, the message, everything that you enjoy. More on that at the end. So if you have the outline, this guy, I have it, you might. We're talking about the city. And you can throw in the chat right now if you're quick, but which city is this? It's not, it's not New York or Philadelphia. Obviously, we're talking about the New Jerusalem. This is the city at the end of the Bible. This is the city that everything kind of culminates into. So the first thing I really want to start with is, to understand something, you have to see it. That's really the first step. And if you look at the beginning of Revelation and the beginning of the outline, it's very, very clear how you see this city. It's clear how John saw this city. And so, looking right here, I can't get Blake or Hayden to read these verses, so I have to read to you. In Revelation 1:10, John says, "I was in spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard." And he goes on to explain the scene that unfolds. But John's little narrative right here, his little explanation of what's happening is, hey, dear churches, to whom I'm writing this, I was over in Patmos. That's an island. That's where he was. I was there, and I was in spirit on the Lord's day. And the way he says it doesn't mean he was caught up or something magical or sudden had happened to him. His point was, I was in spirit on the Lord's day, Sunday, as you do. Like as a normal item of business. So he was going about his normal pursuing of the Lord, and suddenly he heard a great voice behind him. I think it says, and I heard a voice like a great trumpet. So the very first item, on how do you see this New Jerusalem? Because obviously the most we're told about the New Jerusalem is in this book, Revelation, and that this is how John saw it. He started by being in spirit. And I think we've talked to you guys so much about, what is your spirit? What does that mean? What are some ways to kind of blow past your anxiety, your distractions, and get to your spirit? So all of those things come to bear. Even right now, you could listen to this and you could just hear Drew, and frankly, it's probably not going to be very helpful. Or, if you turn your heart, maybe some of these verses will kind of crack open a window and you'll see this city that John saw. So going on with how do you see this city, at the end of the book of Revelation, John says, "And he carried me away in spirit to a great high mountain and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God." So again, he was in spirit to begin with, and suddenly this voice comes to him. And so many different things are spoken to him, told to him to write and record and seal up and send to the churches. And then here at the very end, presumably he's in spirit, and then he says he's carried away in spirit. So he's not just where he was, hearing a great voice. He is altogether somewhere else. He has been carried out of his situation. So that's really the second category, the second way to really see this city for what it is you got to get carried away. You got to get carried, we're all locked in our houses and trying to finish school, trying to do all these things virtually, trying to still have friends. You've got to get carried away out of all of that. So that's really the prerequisite. With that being said, what do you see? When John was carried away, what happened? What did he see? Well, the very first thing, how can I say this? The very first thing John says in Revelation 1:1, and that's the best way to say it, is to read it. In Revelation 1:1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave. So when he writes this letter, he's introducing it saying, this is the revelation of Jesus Christ. This isn't a revelation of the end times and frogs and plagues and scorpion people and all these crazy things. Oh, and there's a great red dragon. Those are the things we captivate on because those are the little details. But John's point is, this whole book is revealing a Jesus Christ And there are some necessary details involved. So, going back to how do you see, if we're not carried away in spirit, then what you'll see are the plagues of frogs, the scorpion people that maybe Dustin can explain to you what those are. I can't. I don't know if anyone knows what those are. We see all these nitty-gritty, seemingly unrelated details, and we just have endless questions that spring up. We have no idea where this is going. It's so complicated. That's what happens if you're seeing this book in kind of a natural way, without just in your natural situation. But when you're in your spirit and you really get carried away, you're really not stuck in your situation and your circumstances, but you're just enjoying Christ and enjoying God. And you read this, what you will see is Jesus Christ. You'll read about this city, but you'll see a person. And so Hebrews 12:2 actually really captures this thought. Amid all the things happening in Hebrews, close to the end, he's saying, looking away unto Jesus. Or I put, this is the English Standard Version, looking to Jesus. And in Greek, the way that is constructed literally means to look away to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, or the founder and perfecter of our faith. So he's the one who began and wrote faith into your heart, and he's the one who's finishing it. He's arranging situations to help you turn. He's speaking in all those little Bible verses. Oh, we have a dog. To instill and cultivate the faith that's been spoken into you. And that is how we, hang on to this, that's how we progress. Ooh, can you hear the baby? He's not real happy. So that's how we progress. We look away unto Jesus. This revelation, this whole book is about the person. The book wraps up in the city, and I'm saying, if you really see the city, you see Jesus Christ. And so circularly, if you want to see the city, because it's really the person of Christ, you look away to him. Look away from all these other things. And so I wanted to dwell on those first two things, because if you're not in that context, the rest of this is totally not helpful. So in that context, what is this city? We see it's the holy city. And I'll actually just go ahead and read this verse. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man." So, what is this city? It's the Tabernacle of God. I'm sure y'all have heard us talk about this. Well, let me just keep reading. It says, "And he will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God." So this city, the holy city that John is seeing at the end of Revelation come down, is firstly a tabernacle. And so what was the tabernacle? I think we've talked through before, in the Old Testament, God showed Moses how to build a tabernacle, which meant tent. How to build a tent that God could live in among his people. And then, this is cool, we've talked about it before, so it may blow your mind, it may not. Depends on how forgetful you are. In John 1, in verse 1 and then verse 14, he says, John writes, "In the beginning was the Word," that's Christ, and for several more verses he explains who this person is. And then in verse 14 he says, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt," and the word is literally tabernacled among us. So in the Old Testament, a tabernacle was built. It was constructed of all these different materials, and then at the very end it was consecrated by the priest, and then this glorious situation happened. This amazing situation happened where the glory of God moved into the Holy of Holies inside the tabernacle. So then in the New Testament, it literally says God came and tabernacled, the same word, the same sense, among us in this man Jesus. So now the progression we see of the tabernacle is first the tabernacle was a tent in the desert, and that tent led the people from the wilderness into the good land. And then that tabernacle was a man who came and literally led us from darkness into light. Okay, so there's a third step in this progression of the tabernacle. Because when God became a man, God came into man, but then, as most of you have heard us talk about in Romans, God got put into man, but then eventually man got put into Christ, who is God. I have Romans 6:3 here. You were baptized into Christ Jesus. That means that God was outside of you, and you were outside of God. We didn't have anything to do with each other. But at one point, God came into humanity as a man, and then we got baptized into him. So it's like we were added into Christ. Now we're in him. And then on top of that, through all of these different situations, as 2 Corinthians 13:5 here says, or do you not realize about yourselves that Jesus Christ is in you? So you were baptized into him, and not the picture. This is just what's in front of me. But then also he is added into you. So the picture of the tabernacle is God dwelling with man. The tabernacle is the place, the way that God is with man. And then now we have this situation where this corporate person of Christ is Jesus Christ, who we've all been put into. Now he's our head. He's the one leading us. He's the impulse that drives us. And he's the life supply that feeds us. But on top of that, he's this new man that Ephesians talks about is not kind of like a robot or like a Frankenstein, where it's like a head of Christ and then a whole bunch of other random people sewn together awkwardly. This is one whole person where Christ is the head. But guess what? When you were grafted onto him and added into him, Christ was added into you. So, on one hand, you're you enjoying Christ. But on the other hand, you're Christ being lived out through you. So the directions go both ways. And it amounts to the situation where first there was a literal tent. Then there was a man who was the actual tabernacle of God, where God was really physically expressed as a person. And now that one tent has turned into a tent of millions. Who knows how many millions? Who are all people who are in Christ and who have Christ in them living. And I really dwelled on this point, what is the city? Because there's a lot of details about the city. It's a very visual description. And it's very easy to think that, the holy city is a thing that's going to, after tribulations and raptures and all these events, this big mountain of gold with a giant, a huge wall around the perimeter and a flowing river and all. It's going to come down out of the sky and crash land on earth. It's really easy for our imagination to take us there. But if we go there, we miss the point. Because the point, we've talked so much about, I have it referenced here. The city of God, the New Jerusalem, is the bride. And we know that's the church. We know that's us. So this picture of the city being the tabernacle and the bride, telling us that we are the New Jerusalem, that keeps us focused on what it means, what all these details mean regarding Christ as a person and us as people who have, had his person move in, and begin to grow in us. So I've spent the majority of time talking about what is the city, that it's us, that it's God dwelling with man. And that's really on purpose, because the last 6 pieces I want to bring out here are really what will happen, because this whole thing is a picture of after all these events, after all these tribulations, after the history of human government and this fallen age has played out, what will be going on? Well, what will be going on is this city, which is Christ in all of his people, God in all of his people, with man on earth, will be manifested as three particular things that I'm going to tell you about, and will be acting in three particular ways. So if you look, what is the city built with? That next section. First of all, the city's made of gold. 21:18, Revelation 21:18 right there, literally says the city made of gold. And then further on in Revelation 22, late in 21, it says the streets were made of gold. We've all heard of the golden streets. Well, if the city, and then when you take the measurements of the New Jerusalem, it's colossal. I should draw it, but I'm not going to. I don't have markers on me. It's truly colossal. It's a literal mountain that is made of gold. And throughout the Bible, when gold was added to things, in the tabernacle and the temple, the type of this is that the gold represents God. The gold as a substance it's beautiful, it's fine, it's untarnishable. It doesn't corrode like iron or copper. The point is that it represents God's nature, God's person. And the city itself is made of this. So what is the foundation, so to speak, the basis of this holy city? It's God. This is all God. That's the point of the city being made of gold. And then the things, so if the city generally is gold, on top of that we have these different structures. We could, I started to list, you know me, I started to list all of them and go through the throne, the walls, the whole 9 yards, but I'll spare you. You can read through. In Revelation 21:19 and 20, it's detailed a number of types of stones that are used there in the foundations and the walls. And we've talked about these stones. If the gold is God's person, God, this weighty, valuable presence of God, the stones are us. But not just us the way we were born. I said we were added into Christ, and then Christ was added into us. Well, I should really say Christ is being added into us. Because like we've talked about in the past, these stones are, it's not just you plucked out of the dirt and stuck in the wall. It's you after you've gone through a long process of the Spirit, God as the Spirit interacting with you and shaping you, but even reconstituting you, like a piece of wood that had all the woody, earthy bits washed out slowly, and all these minerals and beautiful stone deposited within. So you become this living stone. You become something made of precious mineral, precious stone, but you're a living thing, and you're shaped in a certain way so that you fit together with other people. So when you read through what is this city and you see all these stones listed, that's us. And it's so critical that these stones are built into a golden city. And then the pearls. I saved this for last because this is the one I really want to talk about, even though I've used most of my time. The walls. The walls are made of stone, of jasper stone. So the implication is that part of the function of the wall is a part of our living. A wall keeps things out. A part of our living keeps unclean things out of a clean, holy city. There's a separation. So when you go through your day-to-day life, things come up, and there's something in you, some part of Christ that's built into you, who just says no, who's just not interested in that thing. That's that wall just bouncing the unclean things off. But if there's a giant wall, and it's really huge if you read the dimensions, how do people get in? And obviously we've all heard the pearly gates. But I've told you the gold is God. I've told you the stones are you. And I've told you that this whole picture is Christ and us built into each other. So what do you suppose the pearls are? Or I should really say, who do you suppose the pearls are? And the obvious answer is us. A pearl is something, a pearl was a little piece of dirt that got stuck into an oyster, and the oyster used its life to cover that little piece of dirt, one layer at a time, until that dirt had become a literal precious stone. I'm just gonna go with the go nerdy a little bit. That not only is it rock, not only is it made of stone, there's also protein and living bits inside of that pearl. And that's why the pearl is iridescent and beautiful and valuable. It's not because it's good for building structures out of. It's because it's truly unique. It's an organic stone. And the point of this is you go through layers and layers of experience. Just like what you're made of gets reconstituted into these, sardis stones and jasper stones, all these different aspects of Christ in our experience, to live out the city. You also get layered little by little until you're not a prickly natural person. Now you're just kind of this complex but smooth, attractive person who, people want to talk to. People want, automatically there's a draw. When you meet an older believer who really loves the Lord and has for a number of years, they're just nice to be around. There's something that draws you to them. And the point is, these pearls, these people who have been layered time and time and time again with Christ, they are the gate. They are the way that people enter into the city. And so what is the city built with? It's really built with God, with us reconstituted, with God's nature as the Spirit into our person. And then finally, so that covers the walls and all the other accessories. And then finally, with the pearls, that give a clear way to get into the city. And then what's in the city? So we've talked about, and I'm kind of tying together a lot of things that you've heard this semester. What it's made of, what the purpose, so to speak, is. That the purpose is for God to be with man and be expressed among men. But what do you see in the city? Well, first of all, you see God as light, because it says in the city there is no night, and there's no need of light, because the Lamb is the lamp. That's obviously the Lamb is Christ, and the lamp is where God as light shines out of. So in the city, which is us, again, you have to remember we're not talking about a golden mountain, literally. In us for eternity, Christ as the lamp that shines out God as light will be shining. And so, and we've talked before about how light is what makes things obvious. It makes things apparent. It shows things for what they are. And it even gives power to life. It gives life a way to grow. So that, God as that, will be shining within us and among us, for all of eternity. And that's how he wants to be expressed as light. God as life. We talk about the rivers of waters of life. We've talked about it so many times and in so many ways. But where's the last place you see this river? It's right here in this city, in the middle of the street, this golden street that we're all so familiar with hearing about. There's a river, and that river is not It's not some mysterious water, mysterious fountain of eternal youth or something strange like that. This river is literally God flowing, to be enjoyed by his people. He's right there in the middle of the street, so accessible. And then you see God as food, where, we see the tree of life. And I love that when the tree of life is mentioned this time, it says its fruits will come forth every month, and its leaves will be for the healing of the nations. So God as food will satisfy us, but in addition to that, God as the tree of life that we're eating and living out, will the leaves here, which they're like the actions of the tree, they're like the expression of the tree, that will heal the nations. So this isn't saying that the leaves are like some magic ointment that people will rub on their sunburn or something and they'll get better. What it's saying is that the living of believers who are this holy city will be the leaves of this tree, and so our living is what will heal the nations. And so that's what you see within the city. There are so many details I would love to dive into, and I want you to dive into them. Grab appointments with the full-timers. I always tell you this. Do whatever you can to get into the details, but as you dive into the details, you have to remember to be in spirit like John was, and be looking away unto Jesus, because then you will see this city for what it really is. And I'm going to go ahead and answer one of your questions, and you have to repeat it when y'all read these questions in the discussion group, because I asked you what's a simple phrase that summarizes this city. Well, really, I thought about this a lot, and most succinctly, this city is God in you and you in God, so that God can be lived out among men. That's really the gospel right there. And that's the city that Abraham longed for, that Hebrews says. That's God's goal in a nutshell, so to speak. So with that, I'm going to wrap up, and we're going to cut over to a few announcements and then to some Zoom groups to talk through some details. And it was great to see you guys, and we miss you.
Hey guys, I don't actually know if this is going to play in the announcements. Maybe it will, but we'll see. Thank you for watching our Solid Ground. The first thing that we've got going is we're going to have our celebration dinner. Remember, April 16th at 7 p.m. It's going to be on Zoom. Don't shoot the deer on the way to the meeting. Consider what the Lord has been doing. I know you guys have a lot of downtime, so you've got plenty of time to consider what God has been doing in your life. Maybe even what he's been doing in this quarantine. So please feel free to join us. The next thing we've got going on is this slide. Okay, they're the same slide. That would be my bad. If you guys just hang on for 1 minute with me, I can show you exactly what we're going to be doing for this upcoming semester here. Technical difficulties. It's technology. Hey, look at that. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a virtual city navigation Saturday at 3 p.m. on Zoom. It's going to be guys versus girls. We're going to have Phoebe and Abigail, who are going to be driving around Little Rock, and the girls will be guiding them on Zoom. We'll give you a little bit more details. It should be pretty fun. Brandon and I will be on Zoom, and we're just going to we're going to move from point to point. You guys are going to have to figure out where we're at. You're going to have to figure out where we're going. And whoever gets to their location first wins. It's going to be raining, probably, so please don't kill us. That'll be great. But we will be in your hands. So, and the other thing that you guys can do is check our chat over to the right. We have our Zoom link. If you click on that Zoom link, you can join us for our wonderful time I'm glad that the chat has just confirmed that you can actually hear my voice and you're not just looking at an image on the screen. That's wonderful. Thank you. You can join our discussion. Let's talk about this. Let's just not let it sit. So join us right now. Thank you, guys.